Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order. Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council chambers is open for public attendance in person. However, councillors and members of the public may still join meetings remotely using our current teleconference process. If you have submitted a comment request, the chair will call on you at the appropriate time. The chair may also ask for comments and concerns from the public relating to a particular topic. And at this time, phone lines will be unmuted. If you would like to speak, please state your name. Individuals will be allotted 5 minutes to speak or 10 minutes for a group as per our procedure by law. If the meeting is recessed, callers will be put on hold until the meeting reconvenes, with the exception at noon, where callers will be asked to call back in. This helps with call quality. Please note this meeting is being recorded and may be uploaded to our website and or social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. We also ask all attendees to mute their devices to reduce disruptions to the meeting. Everyone has a right to be present at council meetings and council committee meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per the MGA Section 198. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. And we did have notification from Councillor Kester this morning that he's unable to attend. We have an agenda before us. Due to the fact that we have called a special council meeting for today, we can only address matters that were presented on the agenda in the request for a special council meeting that was circulated. And a question to administration: have more than 2/3 of council signed the form?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. More have.
Thank you, CAO Henderson. A motion to approve the agenda is presented.
Also move.
Deputy Reeve Clausen had his hand up first. Sorry, that's okay.
You can go ahead.
Councillor Brigger. Move to approve the agenda. Any questions? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We have the minutes from our February 20th, 2024 meeting. Any errors or omissions? I do have one note. Sorry, I'm just going to the right agenda. On page 6, under 2.47, the referral motion, I did review the recording of the meeting, and the motion was to refer the motion to administration to bring a report back to council. And so I don't think that's captured in the minutes. So I would just ask for administration to amend that. Any other errors or omissions that were noted with the minutes? If not, a motion to approve is amended.
I will so move.
Thank you, Councillor Eickert. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 2.11.
Morning, Council. Joel from administration here. Let's find the agenda item here. Yeah, so administration was bringing forward some changes to the fee structure. There was essentially 3 kind of overall changes here. The reason why we are bringing forward these in March was related to the dust control area, and there tends to be a little bit of a tight timeline between when we get contractual prices on the product itself, and then needing to update our forms and stuff for residents to apply for that service. And so when administration was discussing this, we felt it might be more efficient to amend the fee structure to be noted as material cost. And so that's the main reason for bringing forth the March amendment. And then on top of that, the other two areas that we brought forward were an update to the water meter pricing, just our inventory, just to match the price of our inventory. And then the other one being the snow removal. And as kind of noted in the report, which I'll just kind of go up here, there was a council resolution, I believe it was last or the prior council meeting around that snow removal community facilities, CM 2024-0243. Those are kind of the three overall changes proposed. Staff are available for any questions.
Any questions for administration? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
No question, but I will move that council approve the first reading of Master Schedule Fees Bylaw 2024-08.
Any questions or discussion on the motion? If not, I will call the question. Motion is carried. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council approve second reading of fees by law 2024-08.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. Councillor Rickert.
I'll move that council grant permission to hold third and final reading of bylaw 2024-08.
Any discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried unanimously.
I'll move that council approves third and final reading of bylaw 2024-08.
Thank you, Councillor LaPriest. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. Thank you for bringing that back, and thank you for council's consideration. We'll move to agenda item 3.1. My report is included in the package, starting on page 28. I want to thank administration for facilitating the open house in Cheadle on February 6th. We had a really good turnout of ratepayers, and there was a lot of fulsome discussion. I saw a lot of questions and inquiries from ratepayers being addressed by our administration that were in attendance, and it was an excellent opportunity just to hear feedback. There was actually, perhaps for the first time in open house setting, I actually didn't have any complaints, and we had a lot of commendations from ratepayers for the work that we have been doing and the progress of the county over the last year. So I really appreciated that opportunity, and thank you to our administration for facilitating that. I also want to thank council for supporting my attendance at Emerging Trends in Municipal Law by Brownlee. There were some excellent sessions that were facilitated by the law firm, several of which were very relevant to the work that we're doing. Particularly, several of them. The teamwork one was excellent. There was some around municipal utility bylaws. We also did have an administration team member who specializes in that area in attendance. They also outlined some case law and considerations around tax incentives and the benefits of those to growing the tax base. And the municipal risk management was also very interesting. The case law and legislative update is a little bit more broad, so they just go through different case outcomes that have impacts on municipal governance. And the Bear Pit session is always good, so people have an opportunity to submit questions and then have different team members from the firm address those. There was also an excellent event held by the Strathmore District Agricultural Society for their capital campaign launch for the Western Events and Cultural Center. I will move to accept my report as information, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Seeing no questions, I will call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.2.
Thank you. My report's in the package. Just to highlight a few things. Energy from Waste, we've been with the HZI, which is the company that we've been dealing with. We're trying to get information to the members to be able to make an informed decision. Very challenging because there's information that they don't want to be shared publicly because it's how they operate their business and whatnot. So it's been really challenging. We've had a few meetings over how to get this moving forward. We decided at one point to have an NDA with everybody. That didn't go through with all the membership. So I think the last we're at now, we're going to have it basically go to the executive, and then the executive will vet the information, put something out to the membership as to as much information as we can so they can make a decision. It's really challenging with this when you're dealing with a multinational company that has protected interests. So it's been really challenging. I've had quite a few discussions and meetings and trying to figure out how to orchestrate that. EPR transition, met with Circular Materials on the county side through Drumheller Solid Waste. From everything I'm seeing so far, they're doing an excellent job. There is, of course, some concerns coming up from the smaller villages and stuff. We've asked that any meetings that move forward with Circular Materials or anything that go with EPR for the villages and stuff to have our manager for Drumheller Solid Waste participate, because it gives that consistent information throughout all, because we're all in the same thing. We had some trucks at Drumheller Solid Waste that were stolen, and we're replacing some of them. They're completely written off. And then in WRC, we set an interim budget to proceed from 2022 2023, it should say, for 2024. And we have a large application for use in the area, and we're trying to figure out how we can facilitate that, costs and infrastructure upgrades if necessary. If that user comes online, it would definitely help support the operations, because this the only really source of revenue is to sell water. So. And I will move my report as information and be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Deputy Reeve Clausen? I just have one regarding the stolen trucks for Drumheller Solid Waste. Were those insured?
Yes. Yeah, they were insured, of course, not full value, but they were insured, and they were older units as well. So.
That helps mitigate the
Yes.
cost.
Yes, and there was follow the process as directed by the board to how to replace the units.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions for Deputy Reeve Clausen? And did you move acceptance of your report? Perfect. Oh, I see that actually. With that, we'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.3. Councillor Laprise.
All right, my report is on page 31 and 32 in the package. Some highlights, we have housing management body. Unfortunately, we still haven't heard back whether we have received funds from the provincial government under the AHPP grant. They have said that they're going to make an announcement in March, so we're hoping to know soon. We have discussed the roof repair, and work will open for tender here shortly, and we'll make a decision mid-April. We have a tentative date for a meeting with our housing advisor from the Ministry of Housing and Community
Seniors Housing and Community Services, maybe?
I think it's, shoot, I should know this. This is terrible. Anyways, so this will be a really great opportunity for us to ask some questions from somebody in the ministry who's obviously well versed in the acts and the regulations, so we can ask some very specific questions there. With the new build, we have completed phase 2 of our new build project. So this is following our submission to AHPP. With the province, we progressed the project so that we are now ready to submit to CMHC. So that required a more comprehensive budget. It's a Class B budget. And so our Class B budget and design development is complete. So if we were to get grant money from the province, we could immediately submit to CMHC for that part of the funding. And since we are completed that, the board voted to continue the work with the consultants to phase 3 of the plan. So that would be towards construction readiness. What this entails is $1.6 million more invested in the development of those plans. The argument from the board was that if we don't proceed, we, number one, wouldn't get funding from the province, and number two, the work that we have done to date would be at risk of becoming redundant, or becoming that it would be wasted effort to date. I'll say that I argued that, and I wasn't really in support of continuing on, but I was the minority on the board. And so there's discussions about where we can get the 1.6 million that we require. There was a discussion whether the hospice might be able to forward money that they would otherwise be investing in the building, but they've determined that that's not going to be possible. So we are contemplating requisitioning. I'll leave that there. So we've all been invited to a joint meeting with all of the member municipalities on Thursday evening. It's going to be held at the Town of Strathmore municipal offices at 7 p.m. So it's not available, not open to the public, but it is available just as an update to all of the municipal partners, with the consultants there to provide detailed information about the plans and where we're at and where we're going. I also wanted to move on to WFCSS. We passed a 2024 budget with community organizations. With inflation and everything else, almost all of them requested increased funding from previous years. But because our funding is basically flat, we had to, in many cases, give a little less than they had asked for. It's the reality of the FCSS funding that we get from the provincial government that hasn't been increasing with inflation. We did get a little increase this year that has helped, but we're hoping that FCSS will start looking at adding an inflationary calculation to their funding arrangements. So along with those organizations that get funding from FCSS, we also provide direct services through our own staff. And so that would be including things like home support, which is where an FCSS staff member actually goes to a person's home and will help them with light cleaning and possibly some groceries, or picking up groceries or making some meals, things like that. So we see this as a high priority in terms of keeping people in their homes, seniors in their homes, or that kind of thing. So so with our budget, we also wanted to ensure that that's covered as well. And so just trying to be really frugal with our dollars. And yeah, so I also wanted to just say FCSS also provides services to people outside of FCSS funding. So we also administer different grants. We have one that's the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program. So people with simple income tax returns can get it done for free through our staff. We are going to be offering that out in the community. So there's certain dates that are published where these volunteers will be out in Gleason, Carsland, Rockyford, Standard, Hazard. So that will make it simpler for people to get those done. They also administer the Community Fee Assistance Program, which is a grant from Wheatland Wind and Elemental Energy to organizations that have developments in our county. And so those can be used for people to participate in recreation, arts, culture, and includes lots of components of that, including traveling to, the cost to travel to different programs. So that's really a great benefit that we have. The other one is a Calgary Foundation grant that we had that was largely used to subsidize transportation costs through the handy bus for people, the residents it's difficult to get the cost for handy buses is high because we're so remote and it just is a long distance. So I just wanted to provide those kinds of details about FCSS so that we all kind of are aware of what's going on there. So with that, I am available for questions. Otherwise, I'll move acceptance of my report for February.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions? Councillor Bigger.
So on March 14th, I can't make that. So will it be recorded and can they just send it, the recording? Like, I understand that it's not public, but could they just send it to me?
Yeah,
I want the information, but I
yes,
can't make it.
I will request. I think they did say that it would be recorded, but I don't read. I'll ask and make sure.
If you could request
Yeah.
that I have it sent to me.
I will request that.
Thank you.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Thank you. WHMB just had a question or two. So there's been no funding announcement for the province, and my understanding is that the board's moved ahead to the next level of thing. Has there been a discussion about with CMHC in general? There's got to be a co-borrower in there. It's like there's no way the Housing Management Board can float that loan themselves. So does that go to a debt load to a municipality? I mean, it's a question that was asked, I think 3 years ago when this originally was brought forward. I don't think that's ever been clearly answered because not only are you supporting a project, but you're supporting a debt too. And that's important for financials, for us, for any of the villages. It's important to know that because that can affect your borrowing capacity at some point. And I'd highly doubt that they would let that go. And also, there were several discussions on these budgets that I remember, and there was always off ramps, and we could park it at any time. So I just want to be clear: the board has chose not to do that. They chose to go forward.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Councillor Laprise?
I know I've asked this question, but now we're going, Wheatland Housing Management Board's going to 1.6 million more. What are we at to this point? What has this cost? Are those numbers available? If they're not available, that's fine.
I think at my last report, I had indicated $600,000 in 2023.
I believe I recall 670,000, but I
Yeah.
think Councillor Eichert is inquiring about the total cost to date.
I don't have that currently. I don't know if it's, yeah.
So this the board believes that they can requisition this $1.6 million? Does the board understand that number will cripple the town of Strathmore? I mean, it doesn't do us any good, but it will cripple the town of Strathmore.
Yeah, I can't answer to that, Thomas.
Okay. Thank you. I will have a motion at the end of this.
Yep.
No other questions?
Certainly. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Sorry with the discussion, just another question popped in my head. Both the town and the county have very similar motions of support with continued, like, checks and balances, if you would, or just, so was that ever brought up as discussion? Because both those are the two major partners, and this letters of the motions of support were very specific. So this is kind of, I just want to make sure that was discussed at the board, because those are very, council can't deviate from those unless that changes.
Right. It was not discussed at the board. I imagine they will come with a request to revisit it.
Any other questions for Councillor Laprise? I have a couple of questions. Are you able to expand at all on the rationale for proceeding with the additional $1.6 million expenditures? I know you indicated that the board feels that they wouldn't get provincial funding without advancing that, but then my understanding was that you had met the requirements for the level of budget. I'm trying to remember, I read the HPP funding application. I'm not even sure that they required the level of detail that you're at. My understanding was that that was more for CMHC funding applications. So my understanding was the board has already exceeded the HPP requirements. And then the other rationale provided was that the investment to date would be wasted if there weren't further work on budgeting. Can you just expand on those two, on that rationale?
So I think the board felt that all of the projects that had been approved for AHPP funding were construction ready. So although they might have indicated a Class C budget as kind of a starting point, I think the board felt that anything over and above that would put us in a better position for approval. And sorry, your other question about
The wasting of the
Yeah.
investment to date, just how that would be compromised without further advancing of the budget work.
This is a point that I disagreed with the board on. So they felt that that the work to date was such that I guess that it's not complete enough to stand on a shelf, where if you got further down to construction and design drawings, it could sit on a shelf for up to 4 years, is what I'd heard. And then somebody could pick it up and continue forward without having to do a lot of back work. I think the thinking is that if we were to stop now, the consultants and other contractors would then not be available to pick it back up again to advance the project potentially, that they would then need to, they would be out doing other projects and then might not be available to us when we want to pick up the project at a certain point. And they felt that a lot of work would have to be redone. I would argue that it would have to be redone anyways, just updating costs and things like that. But yeah, that's all I can
Thank you.
offer.
Yeah, no, thank you. Question to administration about the meeting that we've been invited to on March 14th. How does our attendance at a meeting that is not open to the public align with either the Housing Act or the MGA?
Through the chair, actually, I haven't really looked that one up. I know in the past, if there's a quorum of council that is attending a meeting, it probably should be open to the public. I feel like we've had that discussion before. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'd have to do a little bit more research in the acts, but that's my just general advice.
I know we have some time constraints with it being March 12th and the invitation being for March 14th. If administration has capacity, if there's any further information, if you could just provide it to council perhaps by email prior to the 14th.
Sure. Sorry, I should have added the caveat, unless it falls under a section of FOIP, then that would be totally allowable. But yeah, that would be just the general advice. If the meeting does occur and if the meeting is not open to the public, the adoption of the agenda, I guess I don't know the Housing Act very well, but through the MGA, if we were to hold a meeting here, a committee or a committee of council, they're all open to the public. And if there's portions of that meeting or the entire meeting that need to be held during an in-camera session, you'd have to reference the section of FOIP. So I guess just the content of that meeting, I don't understand if the content is confidential. That's something we could ask of the WHMB administration, or perhaps the board members may know, but that would just be some other general advice.
I wonder, recognizing we have a motion on the floor, and we have some time constraints. I wonder if it would be prudent for council to send a letter to the housing board, like today, just requesting further information on what's going to be on the agenda, the rationale for it not being open to the public. And I think it's important, if it is confidential information, that we're aware of that. But I know I'm also getting requests from ratepayers for increased transparency around this project. So that's what's driving my questions. And obviously with the communication around the potential $1.6 million being requisitioned, I can anticipate that the questions around transparency may escalate. So we can address the motion for the report first, but perhaps council may want to contemplate a motion just for some communication with the housing board prior to Thursday's meeting. And then we'll shift to a totally different topic for FCSS, just regarding the advocacy for the inflation indexing. RME did have a resolution in 2014, but it is expired. It was accepted in principle. I will send it to you, Councillor Laprise, just for consideration if you might want to bring it to the FCSS board. And then if the board so chooses, they could request that either Wheatland County bring a similar resolution. You could potentially use that resolution sort of as a jumping off point to draft a resolution to bring to council for consideration to take to RME. And then it might be prudent as well, just because of the high priority this is across the province, to concurrently ask either the town or one of the villages to bring the resolution to the Alberta municipalities. Sometimes a joint resolution can be particularly effective. And I know that sustainable funding for this program is critical for the future viability and success of being able to continue FCSS funding. There is also a chance that I may have missed a more recent, I tried to use a couple of different search functions in the resolution database. So you may want to do that prior to putting too much, and I'll look a little bit further as well. But that could be a way to strengthen that advocacy for your board to advance that.
Excellent. I appreciate that.
Any other questions regarding the Division 1 report? If not, we have a motion on the floor. I will call the question. Motion is carried. Council's wishes, are there any other motions arising from the Division 1 report?
This is as good a time as any. I will like to make this motion. I'd like to direct administration to facilitate a meeting. So request, I'm not sure if this is possible, with the Wheatland County Reeve, Deputy Reeve and CAO with the Ministers of Seniors Community, the Minister of Seniors Community and Social Services. Reason being, I fully understand that Wheatland Housing Management Board isn't a fully autonomous deal, but when we start talking about requisitions are, in my opinion, taxation without representation. If the provincial government isn't willing to do what I believe is their responsibility to oversee the money that's being requisitioned, there has to be another way. So I would I would like to see the Reeve, the Deputy Reeve and CAO talk to the minister, and a lot of it would be about requisitioning. Like, when you have requisition powers, then there has to be other checks and balances. We can't provide the checks and balances. The province has to provide the checks and balances, and they are not. So that is my motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I would definitely support this. I'd like the clarity in it to know, because there's been questions before about capital requisitions in general, and some of it's clear, some of it's an interpretation of the act. We've had that discussion here, and the act is interpreted several different ways from Sunday. So I'd rather just hear it right from the ministry to know, yes, we have to accept this. What checks and balances are there? So I can go back to my taxpayer and say, yes, I've done, this is right. This is what we're doing, because if there's a capital requisition coming forward, and that'll be my first question to ask, is this approved by the ministry? So we'll be down this road anyway, so might as well get in front of it.
Any other questions or discussion? Councillor Larson.
I'll ask for a recorded vote.
Certainly. Any other questions or discussion?
I guess my question, are you thinking just those people, not full council, just for simplicity's sake or is there be a benefit to having the ministers sit down with all of council?
I think it'll be way easier to get this question answered with a limited amount of people in the room. So that's the reason I've chosen these three people.
Would you consider an amendment to include the Minister of Municipal Affairs, just because of the intersection of the impact to municipalities?
Yes, I would.
Any information that would come out of that meeting would be brought back to council, and possibly have a PowerPoint presentation from them or something like that. There needs to be clarity on this, absolutely. And I think that's what I want to see. You know, after this discussion, I want to see that and be very clear on what's going forward, so everybody knows, right? And just to note, our votes are always recorded now with this. So.
They are, but not in the minutes.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Just a question for clarity. So the original motion it referenced requisitioning in the discussion, but it wasn't limiting the meeting to requisitioning. Just clarity to Councillor Eichert regarding your motion.
I have a real concern about requisitions. I would believe that would be brought up. Anything else that you guys feel that need to be brought up, that should be brought up to the deal, I am open to that. There's nothing about, I do not mention any requisites, the exact reason for this meeting, like the with the exact topics that'll be covered, I'd leave that up to the people that are involved.
So the motion is displayed on the screen. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I will call the question. We'll do a roll call. Or would you prefer recorded just through the program? Is that?
Just both their program and we'll have it in the minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'll call the question. Motion is carried with Link, Eichert, Clausen, Bigger, and Laprise in favor, and Laverson opposed.
Through the chair, lunch is ready as well.
Okay. There was also discussion of potential correspondence with the Housing Board. I don't know if that's council's wishes or if I'm alone in that thinking. I would defer to council's wishes just regarding the meeting on Thursday evening and
right.
the agenda and the openness to the public. If it's not open to the public, if there are constraints on our ability to communicate what we learn within that meeting. Council's wishes.
Will we have time like if you send a letter now, they would have to go to the board for response. So it's going to happen. That's the only thing I'm thinking of, like who can respond back if staff is given direction, they can't change that without a meeting. So it's not been, I just don't know if it's going to accomplish anything. Like I agree, but it should have been done originally. Like, yeah.
The challenge being we just haven't had a council meeting
Yeah.
since the invitation. This was our first opportunity as a council to contemplate the invitation to this meeting. And I think there were assumptions that it was open to the public and that it would be recorded. And then there was some informal communication that may not be the case.
There's no, I guess, thinking there's no harm sending the letter because maybe this has to be rescheduled or something to accommodate that. So yeah, I'll make the motion that we send a letter to the Wheatland Housing Management Board. I don't know the exact wording, but as discussed, wait for Shannon to do her wonderful. And then we'll see how it comes up and if we got to change it. It's on the screen already.
Yeah, I think that captures the
Move that council direct administration has sent a letter to Wheatland Housing Management Board to requesting rationale for the meeting not being open to the public and for further information regarding what will be on the agenda.
Yeah, I think that captured the discussion well. Is there so Deputy Reeve Clausen, you're making the motion as presented?
So do we have to do that in letter form or can we email it? Because I mean, if we send it by.
We almost always email
Okay.
letters. That's our primary
Then I'm okay with
method of all of our communication. I don't even think we usually follow up with.
that. Will answer any concerns I have, so.
Any questions or discussion on the motion? Councillor Laverson.
If it turns out that the meeting's public, and I'm not sure whether it is or isn't, does that mean we can then, as long as we get that confirmation, does that mean we then councillors can choose or choose not to attend? I mean, I'll be going anyway because I'm on the board.
So council, through the chair, council can attend any meeting they're invited to for the most part, I believe, just whether or not it's compensated and whether or not it's open to the public. I think I shouldn't be speaking on behalf of anyone, but the conversation that I heard from council was more about just the applicable sections of FOIP and if it is or is not open to the public, I think.
Yeah, and I guess the only caveat would be at times council would have discretion to make by resolution to not attend an event if there were considerations around that. But that's not what I'm hearing with this necessarily through this discussion. It's just that transparency piece and for communicating to the public. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We will recess for lunch. Let's reconvene at 1 o'clock. We'll call the meeting back to order, and we will move to agenda item 3.4.
That's you.
Yes, my report is on the server. I guess what I would like to go over is I did talk to the Wheatland Chamber of Commerce and discussed our continuation to attend the board meetings. They understood where we're coming from, and I said that I would like to open the seat to a rural business person. They agreed, and they will be advocating for that. So I think with that, I would, after my report, like to make a motion on that. The Cheadle Open House, love the format. That was the best. It's the best format to use for talking to people. People feel like one-on-one is more beneficial, and met people wherein the other settings aren't as good. I like our open house setups. Just an FYI. I enjoyed the Egg Society Western events. It was very well attended, and wish them a lot of luck. They've got a busy time ahead. And with that, I'll move my report as presented.
Any questions? Sorry. Any questions for Councillor Bicker? We'll call the question. Motion is carried. You had a second motion arising from the report.
I'd like to make the motion that Wheatland or Strathmore Wheatland Chamber of Commerce participation through Wheatland County's organizational chart, or have it taken off our organizational chart starting now.
So perhaps to move
Or at the
effective
next-
immediately,
Yeah,
that the Strathmore Wheatland Chamber of Commerce be removed as a committee that Wheatland County appoints members to.
yes. We'll see what Shanna comes up with.
She's got our back.
Yeah, they're it's a working committee or working board, but I really think that a business owner should be on that committee for a different perspective.
Yeah, and I think it was a good process to take that back and have the discussion with the chamber and with their executive and their board, and I think it was good, a good process.
So I'll move that effective immediately, Strathmore Wheatland Chamber of Commerce be removed as a committee that Wheatland County appoints members to.
Any questions or discussion on the motion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.5.
My report is on the server. I want to thank everybody for coming out to the open house at Cheadle. I mean, I had at least, I know for a fact I had 3. Thank you for staff coming out there, because I had 3 problems that were just solved that I didn't have to get involved in. They were able to get to the right department. So thank you very much. I thought it was a very well run event. What else have we got going here? February 20th, I went to for Scott for Wademza, And I just as a note, because I wasn't, I think WDEMS is a monthly meeting. And from what I've seen of it, from what we did there, I think you could probably move that to 2 to 3 times, 3 or 4 times a year is probably would be my opinion. I just took down some notes on it, and I would ask the 2 members that go to WDEMS, probably there should be some push to start looking at budgeting on dispatch, because there was a mention that they're going to hire another full-time dispatch person, and they're having to re-up their renew all their communication stuff, because and all that stuff is very expensive. So just so that we have a heads up in the county here of what the new dispatch fees are. I would assume you're going to have to push up the amount of money that they're going to be asking per capita for the people that are using the system. So it'd be really nice to see this pushed out to what this is going to look like 5 years from now, right? So so that's covers WDEMS. And then on February 28th, I went to Siksika, and they had the 3D printed housing, and that is absolutely amazing. Like what you can do with construction, different ways to do construction. I think it's very limited in what you got to do, in the fact that you're working with concrete. So in this country, you've got to figure out it's got to be inside. You got to keep it at room temperature, and that's what they did. They had built but these 3D printers that they're making are absolutely amazing. They're able to do 22. So the house is made up of basically of layers of concrete. So they just lay a layer of liquefied concrete on top of the next layer, and they're able to do 22 inches of it. So and they're roughly 2 inches, so 44 inches a day. It's very, like, talk about an indestructible house. But the numbers they were throwing around, I wouldn't put any precedence. I cannot believe that you can do that, because of the setup and all that kind of stuff. But you do have a house that, once it's built, should last for 100 years. So, but it's very interesting. I want to thank them. That was put together by Martin Shields. Martin was in Ottawa, and Andrea did a wonderful job guiding everybody through there. And there's people from all over Southern Alberta were there. So it's very interesting, and I really enjoyed the just the like people looking at a problem and the different way a problem can be solved. So, and with that, if you have any questions, I'll answer them. If not, I'll move my report.
Any questions for Councillor Eckert? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.6. Perhaps a motion to approve Councillor Kester's report, and we could defer any questions until the next meeting when Councillor Kester is available.
So moved.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Any questions? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.7. Councillor Laursen.
Right, thank you. My reports on the server, other than the ones that are there, I went as alternate to an informative WRC meeting as well. And if there's no questions, I'll move it as presented.
Any questions for Councillor Laursen? I have some questions regarding the Wheatland Housing Management Body meetings. I see February 7th, 14th, and 15th. Could you expand on those meetings, Councillor Laverson?
What would you like to know?
Just an update on what those meetings were, what they encompassed.
One was a building committee meeting, one was a lodge meeting.
There's 3 on your report.
You only asked for the 14th and 15th.
7th, 14th, and 15th.
7th would have been a building committee meeting as well.
And are you able to update on those meetings?
Building committee things are not public. They're
Any
presented to the
outcomes that you
board, and once
can-
they're presented to the board and approved, then they're available on the Wheatland County website. Or Wheatland Housing Management Body website.
I don't think there's typically building committee meeting minutes, or I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them. Did you say on the Wheatland County?
No, on the Wheatland Housing Management Board website, any decisions that come out of building committee meetings will be posted there, because that's where they're discussed, unless it's done in camera, which quite often it is. Then I'm not at liberty to talk about that.
Would you just be able to send a link to the minutes for us?
Nope, but you could sure ask Vicky, because I don't know how to find it.
Okay. And could you expand on the decisions that were made? We've heard Councillor Laprice's perspective on the rationale for the decisions made at the February, I'll have to go back. At the February 15th WHMB board meeting?
I think Councillor Raprice outlined it fairly well. If you want more information, we'll have a more fulsome report on March 14th. We're still in the process of developing that right now, and it will be finished before the meeting.
So you didn't have any different perspectives than Councillor Laverson or Councillor Laprice for the rationale for the additional $1.6 million of expenditures, the rationale for that decision? Nothing further to add?
Well, first of all, the decision hasn't been made yet, nor has the amount been set. So I don't really feel that I need to discuss it until we've determined what that can be. It is an autonomous board.
I was just asking if you had anything to add to the rationale
And I
for
said
the
no.
discussion. Okay, thank you, Councillor Laverson. Any other questions regarding the Division 7 Councillor report? If not, we have a motion on the floor to accept the report as presented. I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We can move to 3.71.
So that was mostly a text discussion. I've had several ratepayers, and I told them to get in touch with the county. Did you get any requests for that? I told them they had to email you guys with requests before this meeting. But they're basically, the gist of what they're asking for is that there is not enough time with only, just a minute while I get it. There we go. They want increased days to haul because with only 2 days, they can't, at the distance they have to go now with the closing of the Nagloran pit, I believe it is, one of the pits anyway. There's no way they can get enough gravel hauled in time. So did you get any requests?
Through the chair, no, I have not received any yet. I thought a good idea for this one might be to ask administration to potentially bring back a report on it.
That'd be good.
Again, I'm not sure of the location of the right pairs either, so I'll leave that up to you.
Well, they're in Division 7, I can tell you that. They actually, the two that asked me live in town, but they're the land that they haul the gravel to is their kids are on the farm now. Okay, well, if you could bring that back, that would be super. And I'm not exactly sure what I'm referring to on the next one.
Just through the chair for a procedural item, Councillor Larson should most likely pass a motion just to direct administration to bring that report back for council consideration.
Oh, the gravel
For
one.
the gravel, yes.
Okay. Okay, then I would make a motion to direct administration to prepare a report on gravel hauling to see if we can increase the days or if the days are adequate, and to bring that report back to council at a future meeting.
Just give administration a moment to get the resolution up on the screen. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'm not sure. I remember probably previous term, but we had quite a discussion about this when we changed it also. Hopefully that information will be in there, because I know there was costs involved and recommendations from administration. It's good to review it again, but there was a reasoning behind that decision at the time.
I'd be very interested to see the rationale, because I think it was done before I was here. And so, yeah, I would be interested to see the background of it.
Through the chair to various councillors, that amendment was done in 2020. So we do have the information on that, and we should provide it to all of council, just so council's all informed of how we kind of got to where we are today. Thank you.
So there's a motion from Councillor Laverson displayed on the screen. Is there any further questions or discussion regarding the motion? If not, I'll call the question. Motion is carried. And I think for the next agenda item, there was an error in the referral motion, and I think we will need to await the RFD from administration prior to considering the request for a letter of support. So we'll wait for follow-up from administration regarding that. So we could move to, so I don't think there's any action required at this time because there was already a motion directing that. So we could move to agenda item 4.11.
Yes, good afternoon, Council. Brian from administration. On page 47 of your agenda package is the CAO report for February 2024. The council resolution tracker is on page 50. Just a couple key items to note is that the T4s were completed and they were all either hand delivered or mailed out to council. Had various meetings with ratepayers this last month. Some good, interesting meetings for sure. And attended a couple meetings on behalf of economic development when Mr. Cramble was away at a conference. If there's any questions about this report or the council resolution tracker, which starts on page 50, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for CAO Henderson? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Thanks. I was looking through the resolution tracker. There's quite a few in here that are been on for a long time. I'm just wondering if maybe we need to bring, some might have some sticky points to them. That maybe we need to bring back community whole or something to see if we still want to push them, or I don't know if we're just supposed to pick them out and discuss them here, or like, I'm sure there's some that stick in your mind that you may have how do we get it successful, or if it's even possible.
Yes, through the chair. I can take a look at them. I do know some are kind of longer outstanding ones, and some will eventually resolve themselves. Sometimes it's just minor actions that we're waiting for to complete. But administration could take a hard look at this one and maybe take a look at resolutions over 2 years old or something like that, or a year old.
Yeah,
see what we can do to bring them back.
My thought was if it's got to come back to council for something, or just something that's just so it doesn't keep building, because there's some of them that are, I looked at them going, I don't know if it's possible to get an outcome that is what we need out of it. But
yeah, through the chair, administration is cognizant that the resolution list does grow. We do try to resolve them as they do come up, but sometimes there's just sometimes external forces, or external issues that administration can't control, or sometimes there's just ones that we're trying to resolve and we just can't. So typically those ones we leave on just so council understands that we're still working on them. That's the rationale for leaving them on. But I can take a look at some of these and bring them back. Obviously, because administration is doesn't have the latitude to rescind any of these motions, and obviously we want to leave them on the table for council, or we must leave them on the table for council unless rescinded or council deems complete. So administration can look at these resolutions and let you know. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion regarding either the CAO report or the resolution tracker?
I'll move that council accepts the February 2024 Chief Administrative Officer report as information.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Follow-up motion regarding the resolution tracker.
I'll move that council accept March 12th, 2024 council resolution tracker as information.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.12.
Yes, good afternoon, Council. Brian from administration again. So on page 57 of your agenda package is a request for a letter of support for the Centennial Project for the Hussar Historical Society. This one is just for inclusion into some of their grant applications that they intend to do. The president, Mrs. Armstrong, mentioned that there was no financial commitment from the county required. So administration thought it was just easy to get this letter of support done and signed and delivered to the president. If there's any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions regarding the request?
Not so much a question, just a comment. The Historical Society's already done quite a bit of work on this and they have it planned. They've already got a letter of support from the village. It's technically a village matter, not really county, but it would be really great if they could get a letter of support. There's no financial commitment to this.
Yeah, it looks like an incredible project that they're doing. It, like, even from a Wheatland County perspective, like, I acknowledge it's in the village, but it's incredible. It's like the design looks great and I think it's exciting. Any other questions or discussion?
I'll make the motion that council authorize the Reeve to sign a letter of support for the Hussar Historical Society for inclusion in their Centennial Project grant applications.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any other questions or discussion? Call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.13.
Yes, good afternoon, Council. On page 68 is the Marigold Library funding requisition request. Administration does receive these every second year, and the per capita rate is set by the board, and the Schedule C is just brought to Council for authorization. I did include some information in the report itself. I did have a conversation with I believe her title is president of the Marigold Library, Lynn Price. Asked her a couple of questions. She's actually very insightful. And so ultimately council would fall under part 1 of this schedule, operating without a library board. I did inquire about the municipalities that did have library boards, and it did seem like it's more common for urban municipalities to work with library boards and the rural ones to work without. I did include a schedule that was provided by Marigold on municipalities with library boards and municipalities without. So those schedules are on page 89 and 90 of your agenda package. And the actual Schedule C for authorization to be potentially signed by the Reeve is on page 73 of your agenda package. I did also include a little bit of a financial summary as well, or financial analysis, and that's on page 68. Just the per capita, it has been going up slightly year over year. And the per capita rates are on page 68. If there's any questions about this, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for CAO Henderson?
I don't have a question, but I have just a comment. I'm just new on that board and my orientation will be on Monday. But I was under the impression that Carsland and Gleason both had boards.
So they actually do not have boards. They are operated by volunteers. And that is, so if you were to have a board, then the volunteer positions would have to be amalgamated into that board somehow. That's my general understanding of it. So any other kind of information on that, I'd actually have to go back to the library board on that one to get further clarification.
And I'll be asking a lot of questions next Monday, so I'll get more verse on it. Thank you.
One thing that Ms. Price did mention as well is that she did commend the Wheatland County volunteers as well. She know that they were a very passionate group of people that kind of helped in the community with Gleason and Carsland.
Council's wishes.
I'll move that council authorize the Reeve to sign the Schedule C requisition for Marigold Library System per capita levy rates for 2025 and 2026.
Any questions or discussion on the motion? Call the question. Just while we're waiting for the vote too, just Lynn Price is the CEO. So not of the board, but of the Marigold organization. Motion is carried. And thank you for that update. I think Marigold does an incredible job of providing regional library service that increases capacity for library service throughout our county. Let's move to agenda item 4.14.
Yes, good morning, or sorry, good evening or afternoon, council. I'd like to know that I'm under the weather today. I'm sure you can I hear it in my voice. One thing that administration did add was the ratification to attend the Wheatland and Area Surface Rights AGM. Wheatland, we're cognizant that the Premier and a few other MLAs were in attendance at this meeting. So typically when that does happen, the council does reschedule their meeting, hence why this has been recalled or put forward to a special council meeting. Just procedurally, we had to kind of do it that way because we found out after the last council meeting, or else we would have done a resolution at the last council meeting. So all the information is there. An email was circulated to all of council, and all of council was invited by a member of the board. So if there's any questions about this report, the recommendations on page 91. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Council's wishes.
I'll move to ratify 1 partial day per diem and mileage for councillors who attended the Wheatland and Area Surface Rights Annual General Meeting held in Standard on March 5th, 2024.
Any questions or discussion?
For those that weren't there, I did sat in the back and taped the speakers. I don't know how to share it to everybody off the phone, but maybe Corey can figure out something and get it into an email because it's quite a file or something. I don't know how to do it. But so the council can see it if they want to, because it's good to review what was said, because I like all the speakers there. So. And it isn't the best quality. I got better towards the end. Yeah, it was pretty much bad. Once I found the microphone stand and put my phone on it, was really good. So but there was nobody there taping it. I thought it was really important. So
I would like to reiterate too that yes, the first speaker in particular, Mr. Wilson, a lawyer who's been advocating on behalf of landowners, had an excellent presentation. It really summarized all of the various issues that are going on in this realm, and he was very well spoken. If anybody didn't hear him, it's worthwhile for sure to listen. So thank you for filming.
Yeah, and I think a thank you to the Wheatland and Area Surface Rights Group, the grassroots work that they're doing to profile this issue in the province, and obviously is being heard by the province, and their work is respected. And I think just commendation to their board and to their membership for the meeting that they held and the impact that will have. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Yes, Spencer Hilton did an amazing job. Really good. I mean, that was a house full of people, and he did a really good job. So
yeah, absolutely.
I was happy to attend.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.21.
Good afternoon, Council. Corey from administration. Just on page 94 of the agenda package is the Corporate and Financial Services report for February 2024. Just a couple highlights here to share. There's a bunch of information here just in regards to the assessment, which our hope is during the March 28th Committee of the Whole meeting to cover in more detail. I do have Dennis here in case there are any questions on that in particular today. The other interesting things is for our general finance, we completed the field work for audit. So most of that's done. Now they're doing the rest of the audit on the side. And so far, I understand that's going well. The other interesting thing is our RFP for the digital transformation is coming to a very hopefully close and that we can hopefully complete today. And the interesting thing is we're going to be doing a practicum for a student that's going to be coming in for records related stuff. So we're excited to do that. And that concludes my report. I'm here for any questions you might have.
Any questions regarding the report? If not, council's wishes. Councillor Larson.
I'll move that council accepts the corporate and financial services report to council for February 2024 as information.
Thank you, Councillor Larson. Any questions or discussion? I just have one question. I was noticing on page 95 that we have a steering committee for digital transformation. I was just wondering if it would be possible to have any work done on governance for sort of new technology, specifically AI. There's some significant opportunities that are emerging around that. And I'm assuming we may already have team members or even some of our council that might be utilizing or leveraging some of those opportunities. But with that also comes risks, particularly around some of our responsibilities around privacy and those types of things. So just a question to administration, if we could perhaps consider developing some policy to ensure that we're just governing that well to mitigate some of the risks that come along with those opportunities.
Yeah, through the chair, we are looking at reviewing our information security policies, and we do intend to have AI in there as one of those pieces. And your recommendation just in regards to the steering committee, I can definitely take that back as something that could be a very viable thing to discuss for sure.
That would be fantastic. I was recently in a session where several sessions that focused on AI and some of the governance considerations that come with that. And the messaging there was that this will be a very dynamic, iterative environment that we'll be working in over the next, well, into the foreseeable future. And so a steering committee can help, or a committee structure can help stay on top of some of the changes and make sure that the policy keeps pace with the technology. So I very much appreciate that. Any other questions or comments regarding the report? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.31.
Good morning, Council. Mike Borgon from Administration. Just here on behalf of Sherry Bears, who had to leave. On page 98 of your report, you'll find the Community and Development Services update. Two highlights on the report over and above the statistics that are provided. One for community services. They are busy and have been busy accepting grants. So three of them that are highlighted are Carsland and Gleason Community Facilities Grant, the Wheatland Wind Community Benefit, and East Strathmore Solar Project Element Energy Community Benefit. We do anticipate more to come in the following month as well. In addition to processing those grant applications, Community Services has, along with the Lakes of Weirfield Homeowners Association, finalized the alignment of the first phase of the multi-use pathway for the community. So that's exciting. The intent of that is for construction to commence in 2024. Also, the other highlight would be the area of my expertise, which is fire and emergency services. I'm proud to announce that we will be doing a recruitment for junior firefighter program. That'll entail firefighters from the age of 16 to 18 years old, particularly high school students that want to, become volunteers, hopefully we can keep them in the community. Some of them will want to be career firefighters to go to, Calgary and places like that. It is a good program that's worked in numerous other departments. Again, the intent is to get them while they're excited about it and train them to the Wheatland County standard. They won't be involved in anything too strenuous. There are some limitations because they are underage. It's been run through our health and safety department already, and they are covered through our WCB. So we'll bring this forward to the next Chiefs Committee coming up in April, and hopefully we can recruit hopefully up to a dozen new firefighters for our county. So that's just a kind of nice, exciting tidbit for you guys. That does conclude the presentation, unless you guys have other questions.
Excellent. That is such an exciting opportunity for youth in the region. Are there any questions regarding the report? Just a quick question on page 99. It's probably just a textual error. 2 of those calls would be co-response from the town of Strathmore, and are the other 2 to the town of Strathmore?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Any other questions? If not, a motion to accept the report. Thank you, Councillor Laverson. And any final discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.32, request to waive application fees.
Good afternoon, Council. Stefan Kuntz on behalf of administration. And again, Sherry sends her regards. She's at a meeting with Strathmore. So this item is a request by the Lakes Muirfield Homeowners Association and the Layalta Community Association to waive the land use redesignation and subdivision application fees as per the Master Schedule of Fees bylaw. The report is on page 105 of the agenda. Administration has been working with the Homeowners Association to find a suitable location for recreational amenities such as an outdoor skating rink and tennis and or pickleball courts. Several sites were evaluated, and it's been determined that the most suitable location is the existing Layalta Community Hall. This contains a community hall, 2 baseball diamonds, a playground, and a campground currently. Excuse me. In order to accommodate the additional recreational amenities without interfering with the existing camping area and community buildings, additional land is needed. The Community Association and the Homeowners Association are in the process of purchasing 7.5 acres of land immediately east of the community hall site. So in order to do this, a land use amendment is required to redesignate that portion of land from Agricultural General District to Community Services District. And then a subdivision application would be needed to adjust the boundaries between the two. So in support of expanding the facilities at the community hall and to advance the recreational goals of the Community Association and the HOA are requesting that Council waive the land use redesignation and subdivision application fees, which are included in the report. It's approximately $3,500 in fees. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions regarding the request? Councillor Laverson.
So just a question. So if we do this for this association, what if, have we set the bar so that every other association should expect the same thing is my question.
Through the chair, it would be essentially up to Council each time. They would make the requests to us, we'd present it to you, and then you could essentially make that decision.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, we have waived other applications.
And I think those are outlined in the report.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion that council approves waiving the fees for the land use redesignation as subdivision application for the Layalta Community Hall expansion as outlined in the Master Schedule of Fees bylaw.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Any questions or discussion?
Reason I support this, it's a large group of people from Lakes Muirfield and the greater area of Layalta. The Layalta Hall has been there for a long time, and it was getting hard to get people to volunteer and support. It was, and I know I've attended both meetings and seen the kind of the changeover and the new breath being into the area, which is nice, because those halls, as we all know, it takes a community to support them. They're expensive to keep going. They're already having communications people. They're talking about having different events for suiting the area. I think it's just the start. This is really good for the area. It's utilized an existing site. They realized they didn't want to tear it up. They'd rather expand. They've talked to a neighboring landowner. They're willing to sell for a reasonable price. Like it's really good for the area, and it's nice that it's community driven. So I'm totally in support of this.
Any other questions or discussion? I would echo your comments. Absolutely. The community spirit is evident through their presentation to our Public Participation Committee. And I think the fact that you have such an engaged community group and just the collaboration as well is impressive, especially in a significant potential growth node for the county. So any other questions or discussion? Councillor Larson, I'll just ask if we could limit use of technology to just following along with the agenda as per our bylaws. Sorry, Councillor Larson, could you use your microphone?
I said I'm following.
Thank you so much. Any other questions or discussion regarding the motion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.41.
Good afternoon, Council. Brad Bullock presenting the February 2024 Transportation and Agriculture Department report. So the report starts on page 109 of the agenda, and I'll just highlight a few of the items that are listed. First item is the Goldfinch water line that administration is working on. We have been coordinating that quite heavily with the Western Irrigation District, looking into tying into the Langdon Reservoir for the water supply of that line. And detailed engineering design has also started on that project. And we started to share some of those details with the Irrigation District to start getting approvals and discussing the design with them as well. Next one down on the project management activities. So there is a lot of activities going on with projects in preparation right now, tendering, engineering, and so our project managers are busy on that. And just for council's information, there are some public information sessions being planned for some of the projects, and so the intention will be to invite the REEV and the CAO and the divisional councillor that's impacted by that project. And so the project management team will be reaching out to find some times to work for the councillors and get those meetings set up. So just a handful of projects that we'll be doing those in the county for the major ones. Moving on to page 110, again under project management, continue working on the municipal standards manual update, as well, of course, is the infrastructure planning studies, which would include the west side servicing studies that we discussed before, and looking at planning and setting up infrastructure plans for the major ASPs. Lastly, on page 111, for our agricultural and environment team report, just highlighted at the bottom of that page, some of these dates have passed, but there is a list of agricultural related events within the county. Some have happened now and some are upcoming for council's information and also, of course, for the public. And then just starting on page 113, just something of interest to, that may be of interest to council. We have updated our table and our reporting for the capital projects, just to include some more information for council in regards to project progress on page 113 of the various projects, what activities will be happening this year, what activities have already happened, and then of course which ones are planned for future years. And so as those progress, you'll start to see more box X's in those boxes as the year progresses and be able to see how those projects are progressing. And then on page 117 is some interesting charts just in regards to budget expenditures. So this will give a little bit more real-time information to council as the projects are progressing. It does take sometimes take a little bit of time to get through the whole accounting process, and so a little more information again for council on the capital project progress. And that concludes my report, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the report? Councillor Laverson.
What's a working well workshop? It's March 13th on page 111.
Yeah, if I may,
Yeah, George.
If you may turn it over.
George Bloom with
you.
administration here. So the Working Well workshop is care and maintenance of rural properties wells.
Water well.
Yep. Thank you. Yep. And 6 till 9 on the 13th here at the UCC.
PM?
Correct.
Oh.
I believe we have 40 registrants already.
There's more details, I think, on our website and social medias. It is a really informative workshop if councillors want to share with ratepayers in their area. It goes into a lot of detail about that maintenance and the long-term considerations for your well. Any other questions? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'll move that a council accepts the February 2024 Transportation Agricultural Department report as information. And I'd just like to say I like the new updated tables. It's really good. The information's nice to see where it's progressed and everything. So really good. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would echo those comments. That dashboard style is really easy for us to track those financial implications, especially with such a significant budget. So kudos to you and your team for developing that. It's a great tool for us to track those expenditures. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion on the motion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 5.1. There were multiple correspondence items included in the package. Is there anything that anybody would like to pull out? Or we can have a motion to accept as information. Council's wishes.
I'll move to accept this, the correspondence to accept as information.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. And I'll move us into closed session under the FOIP sections listed in the agenda package. Oh, Councillor Laprise.
So I just want to say before we move into closed session that I'll recuse myself from the first item, land lease tender award.
And can you just
For
outline why you're
pecuniary.
recusing yourself?
Yes.
For pecuniary interest?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. So we'll just ensure that the minutes note when Councillor Laprise recuses herself and when she returns to the closed session.
Let's take a 2-minute break too.
Sure, we can even do that once we move in. Any questions or discussion on the motion to move into closed session? I'll call the question. Sorry, you're going to need it potentially after as well. Look for special.
No pressure.
Motion is carried, and we'll just reconvene in the committee room. Good afternoon. Council has moved out of closed session, and we do have some motions arising. We'll move to motion arising from land lease tender award. Council's wishes. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I make a motion that council directs administration to proceed with the process of awarding the lease of county-owned property of roll number 2632000 without consideration of the right of first refusal and the right of second refusal requirements of County Policy 9.5.2, leasing of county property.
Is there any questions or discussion on the motion? If not, I will call the question. Motion is carried. We have a second motion arising regarding land lease tender award. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council directs administration to produce a revised draft of County Policy 9.5.2, leasing of county property, and present the proposed policy revisions to council at a future committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Eckert. Any questions or discussion on the motion? We'll call the question.
Sorry, I have so much hand sanitizer on, I can't use my. It's coming. There we go.
Motion is carried. We had a motion arising regarding the digital transformation project RFP review and results. Yes.
Go ahead. Are you
Yes. Go ahead, Councillor Baker.
That council authorized the Reeve to sign the agreement with governmentframeworks.com dated March 11th, 2024 for the digital transformation project.
Any questions or discussion on the motion?
Were we going to do another motion to have administration draft it? Yep, that'll be separate.
Yeah, we could do that following this one. If there's no other questions or discussion, I'll call the question. Motion is carried. And perhaps an additional motion directing administration to draft a one-page brief outlining the digital transformation process, rationale and benefits. Did I capture?
Yeah.
I don't need to move it, but perhaps if somebody would like to move it.
I can move it.
Councillor LaPriest. So to direct administration to draft a one-page brief outlining the rationale and benefits of the digital transformation project. It might be good maybe on the flip side, just have a Q&A type, just some of the common things we might anticipate, like will we still have access to paper forms and can we still accommodate in-person?
FAQ, like a frequently asked
Yeah.
questions type thing. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any questions on the motion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. That brings us to the conclusion of our agenda today. Thank you, everybody, and meeting is adjourned.